Okay, we'll begin the Planning Committee meeting of Akron City Council. I'd like to request a roll call, please.
Fusco.
Aye.
Hamer.
Aye.
Connor. Baylor. And Mosley.
Aye.
All committee members are present except for Connor and Baylor.
Okay. Very good. We have 3 items that I believe are up for, first, let's entertain a motion that we accept the minutes of the previously held meeting.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. Thank you. Next, what we'll do is we'll begin the public hearing process. We have 3 items that are up for public hearing this afternoon. What we'll do is receive a report from the Planning Department in reference to the conditional use request. After that, we'll then, if there's anyone here or online that wishes to be sworn in and testify before the committee, our clerk, Sarah Biviano, will swear in any individuals that may want to speak to the committee today. And then what we'll do is open up for a public hearing. After the public hearing, we'll then close up the public hearing and open it up for committee members to ask questions and then council members to ask questions. We'll repeat that process this evening at 7 o'clock. The only major difference is we'll make a recommendation to all of City Council, the committee will. The committee can recommend approval, disapproval, or to table an item, meaning take time on an item for further consideration. So those are the steps that we take here at Akron City Council. I don't think I missed anything. So with that, I will let Sarah Biviano, our clerk, please read in the first item that's up for public hearing. And plus, I'd like for the record to reflect Sharon Connor is here on the committee.
The first item up for public hearing is an ordinance authorizing a conditional use to construct an oversized garage at 1203 Sawyer Avenue and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee members. Wayne Powers is seeking approval to construct an addition onto the existing detached garage in the rear yard area of their residential property. The existing 2-car garage contains 651 square feet of area, and the proposed addition will add 378 square feet for 1,029 square feet total. The proposed 1-story garage addition would measure 14 feet in width by 27 feet in length and be sited 8 feet 9 inches from the southern property line. While the existing garage contains a gable roof, the addition will contain a shed roof with a peak height of 8 feet 6 inches. The vinyl siding and overhead doors will match the existing materials. The drive will also be widened to accommodate the addition. Petitioner stated that the main purpose of the proposed addition will be for boat storage. Almost 9 feet of area will remain between the addition and the property at 1195 Sawyer Avenue. The proposed addition also does not consume more than 40% of the rear yard area. This property is well maintained, and the planning staff and planning commission recommend approval subject to conditions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Antonucci, for that report. We'll now ask if there's anyone here wishing to testify before the committee or online. Please be sworn in by Sarah Biviano, the Clerk of Council.
Could you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give will be the truth? If so, please say, I do.
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. With that, we'll now open up the public hearing for the property located at 1203 Sawyer Avenue for an oversized garage. If you could please provide for the committee your name and address. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, members of the committee. My name is Wayne Powers. I live at 1203 Sawyer Avenue. I've been there all my life, except for one other time I was over on Avon Street. So I'm a North Hill resident for 55 years. This is the boat in question. If anybody, it's just big enough to fit into the garage. Per my wife, that's all I could ask for. So it's not going to be too oversized. It is just for the purpose of the boat. The widening of the driveway is just long enough to, I've driven it out of where the boat's going to be, just enough that I can get out and not hit the garage on the way out. So I had to have it so long to get the boat to clear the garage door and then into the existing driveway. I've spoke with all my neighbors that own their homes. There's 2 rental properties that I haven't been able to get a hold of the owners of the rental properties. But I have letters in the packet that I delivered to zoning that had their 3 letters that they were okay with with what I was doing. And we're going to take some of the flowers that are at the existing garage now, move them down to the front to soften that new driveway. It's a little more curb appeal to it. And like we've said, it's going to match the siding that's on there now, so it'll look like it's always been there. And there'll be doors on both. I wanted to explain the overhead doors on both ends of the garage is so that if we needed to get anything to the backyard, we can open up both garage doors and get stuff to the back if we needed to do any construction or fence changing or repair or anything like that. So with that, I thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else here wishing to speak in favor or against the conditional use request on Sawyer Avenue, 1203 Sawyer Avenue? Anyone else here or online wishing to make any comments? I'm seeing and hearing none. We'll close the public hearing portion and now open up to any committee members who may have questions or comments. I'm not seeing or hearing anyone. I do see Mr. Phil Lombardo's hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, all I want to do is just reiterate what Mr. Antonucci said, and that is that the property is well maintained. I visited Mr. Powers' resident, and it's just similar case last week, if you remember, someone that just wants to improve their property and really enhance, like he says, even from the curb appeal standpoint. So I just would encourage my colleagues to vote on this because, again, he's just trying to improve the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Lombardo. Is there anyone else wishing to make any comments? Okay, hearing none, we'll now move on to the next item. Invite you back this evening if you'd like to join us either in person or online. It's 7 o'clock. Thank you. We'll make a recommendation after the public hearing this evening. Thanks. The second item that's up for a public hearing, Ms. Biviano, if you could please read it in.
The second public hearing is an ordinance authorizing a conditional use to retain a two-family dwelling at 2447 Newton Street and declaring an emergency.
Okay, very good. Mr. Antonucci, would you like?
Mr. Chairman, committee members, Manuel Smart is requesting permission to retain a two-family dwelling at this address. The one-story Cape Cod was constructed in 1953 and contains 1,906 square feet of living area. Aerial photos depict that sometime between 1990 and 2006, a breezeway and two-story addition consisting of garages on the lower level with living space above was constructed. However, research of records failed to find a building permit for the breezeway and addition. The petitioners have stated that when they bought the home recently, that the multifamily living space was already established. One goal of the Land Use and Development Guide Plan is to preserve and protect single-family neighborhoods. The illegal conversion was done by a previous owner, likely within the past 10 years. While this property is well-maintained and meets housing standards, it has been zoned single-family since the 1950s. Planning staff recommended disapproval. However, the Planning Commission recommends approval subject to conditions, which includes that the petitioner get a building permit. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Antonucci. At this time, I'd like to ask our clerk, Sarah Biviano, to please swear in any individuals who wish to testify before the committee.
Yes, we do have two individuals sign up to join us online. Alyssa McKinstry, I believe that's you here that I'm able to see. And it looks like somebody joined on a phone number. I believe that might be the petitioner. Are you able to turn on video? If it's okay with you, Mr. Chair, I can go ahead and swear in Alyssa first. Okay. Could you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give will be the truth? If so, please say, I do. Thank you.
Very good. We will go ahead and begin the public hearing process and ask if there's anyone here wishing to testify before the committee. If you could please provide for us your name and address. Alyssa, is that right? If you'd like to make any comments?
Our only comment really would be that the, excuse me, I'm sorry, that when we did buy this home, like you guys mentioned, it was already in the multifamily situation. So we would just like to leave it the way it is. We're not adding anything. We're not taking away anything. And then we also just wanted to mention that you had said that you wanted to keep the single family living neighborhood, but right down the street there are a few apartment buildings and things like that. And our tenant in the house is actually, her parents live right across the street. We do keep the house maintained. We did update the outside to make it a better curb appeal. But we just hope that you guys consider. We have great tenants in there right now, and we hope to keep them there.
Thank you for your comments. Could you please provide for us your name and address?
My name is Alyssa McKinstry. I'm the office manager for Smart Real Estate Group, or for Manual Smart. And the address for our company is 80 Cole Avenue, Akron, Ohio, 44301.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here wishing to testify before the committee?
I believe that phone number was actually her. It looks like she was joined
Okay, all right.
for the audio that way. But I do not have anyone else logged on.
Okay, very good, thank you. Anyone else? Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing portion, open it up to any committee members who may have any questions or comments. Any council members? I see Mr. McKittrick.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I did, on a couple opportunities, reach out to the neighbors in that area. Actually, some of the adjoining neighbors, a couple times, never really got any reply from most of them, but I did speak with two, and they're longtime residents over there, and they've had nothing negative to say about this location. They said that it's been kept very neat, and when you look at it, it is probably one of the neater properties in that area, and so therefore I have no objections to it.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions from anyone? Okay, seeing and hearing none, I will now move on to the next item. However, I'd like to invite you back this evening if you'd like to join us at 7 o'clock, where we'll conduct another public hearing, and afterward, the committee will make a recommendation to all of council. Thank you for joining us. Ms. Viviano?
The third public hearing is an ordinance authorizing a conditional use to construct a solid fence beyond the building line at 1558 Hampton Road and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Antonucci?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee members. McNick LLC received notice from traffic engineering regarding tall shrubs at the corner of the property obstructing traffic visibility and a solid fence located within the Britton Road setback. The petitioner has recently removed the shrubs and the old fence, but would like to replace it with a new 6-foot vinyl privacy fence in the same location. The white vinyl solid fence, requiring a variance of 20 feet, would be set at their property line along Britton Road and 55 feet set back from the front yard corner of the property. The purpose of the solid fence setback requirement is to provide for the safe movement of both pedestrian and vehicular traffic. The traffic engineer's office recently conducted an inspection and noted that there were no site visibility issues caused by the location of the fence. Because the fence is located closer to the southwest corner of the property and over 50 feet from the intersection and not in proximity to a driveway, both planning staff and planning commission recommend approval. Thank you.
Thank you for your report, Mr. Antonucci. If there's anyone here wishing to testify, if they could be sworn in from Sarah Biviano, we'd appreciate that. I don't believe there's anyone here.
I did not have anybody join online, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. There's no one to swear in. However, we will open up the public hearing. Ask if there's anyone wishing to testify. Anyone? That's 3 times. We'll close the public hearing. We will now ask if there's any questions or comments from any committee members. Okay. Any council representatives? Any comments? I'm not seeing or hearing any. So now move on to the balance of the agenda. Thank you. Going to recommend we take time on the agenda and move into the new list of legislation. Ms. Biviano, if you want me to tap in and read some of these, I'm more than happy to help. Quite a few to read in.
Item number 3 is an ordinance amending or supplementing Title 15, Chapter 153, Zoning Code, Article 2, Districts and Maps, and Article 5, Accessory Uses in Residence Districts by adding a form-based zoning code and declaring an emergency.
Refer for public hearing on October 23rd. Item number 4.
Item number 4 is an ordinance amending the zoning map by changing the limited business use district ULB H1A1 classification on property on the west side of Merriman Road, south of Smith Road, the UPD 23 district classifications on property located on the northeast side of Akron Peninsula Road, aka Timberland Village, on property on the north side of West Portage Trail, aka Timbertop Apartments, on property on the north side of West Portage Trail, west of Northampton Road, and on property on the south side of West Portage Trail to a conservation neighborhood district and declaring an emergency.
For an advertised for public hearing on October 23rd, number 5.
Item number 5 is an ordinance amending the zoning map by changing the single-family residence use district U1H1A1 on property on Dillon Drive and property on the west and east sides of Sackett Hills Drive to a conservation neighborhood district and declaring an emergency.
For an advertised for public hearing on the 23rd of October.
Item number 6 is an ordinance amending the zoning map by changing the UPD 22 district classification on property located south of Akron Peninsula Road, former Riverwoods Golf, and property on the south side of West Portage Trail. The UPD 23 district classification on property on the south side of West Portage Trail, Cascade Falls Apartments, and property on the west side of Northampton Road, and the UPD 29 district classification on property on the northeast side of Akron Peninsula Road, aka Hampton Knoll Apartments and Pheasant Run Apartments, to a neighborhood 2.5 district and declaring an emergency.
For an advertised for public hearing.
Item number 7 is an ordinance amending the zoning map by changing the retail business use district U3H1A1 classification on property at the northern terminus of Weather Vane Lane and the apartment house use district U2H1A2 classification on property at the southern terminus of Weather Vane Lane, aka Cedarwood Village Apartments, to a neighborhood flex district and declaring an emergency.
For an advertised for public hearing.
Number 8 is an ordinance amending the zoning map by changing the apartment house use district classification U2H1A2 on property on the north side of Barcelona Drive by changing the retail business use district classification U3H1A1 on property located on the west side of North Portage Path by changing the retail business use district classification U3H1A2 and single-family residential use district classification U1H1A1 on property on the west side of North Portage Path by changing the retail business use district classification U3H1A1 of property on the north side of Merriman Road and south and northeast of Weather Vane Lane, and by changing the UPD 22 district classification on property south of West Portage Trail to a mixed-use 3 district and declaring an emergency.
Refer and advertise for public hearing.
Item number 9 is an ordinance amending the zoning map by changing the retail business use district U3H1A1 classification on property on the north and south side of Merriman Road and property on the west side of North Portage Path and Akron Peninsula Road to a mixed-use shopfront 3 district and declaring an emergency.
For an advertise for public hearing. Number 10.
Item number 10 is an ordinance amending the zoning map by changing the UPD 22 district classification on property located on the west and southwest side of Akron Peninsula Road and the UPD 23 district classification on property on the south side of West Portage Trail to a mixed-use flex district and declaring an emergency.
For an advertise for public hearing on the 23rd of October.
Item number 11 is an ordinance amending the zoning map by changing the retail business use district classification U3H1A2 on property located on the east side of North Portage Path, north of Merriman Road, by changing the retail business use district classification U3H1A1 on property located on the south sides of Merriman Road and Riverview Road, by changing the UPD 22 district classification on property located on the north side of Merriman Road and Riverview Road, by changing the UPD 23 district classification on property on the west side of Cuyahoga Street, aka Cascade Valley Metro Park Schumacher Valley, and by changing the UPD 28 district classification on property on the south side of Riverview Road to an open space conservation district and declaring an emergency.
For an advertised for public hearing?
Item number 12 is an ordinance amending the zoning map by adding a scenic buffer overlay in the Merriman Valley and declaring an emergency.
For an advertised for public hearing?
Item number 13 is an ordinance amending or supplementing Title 15, Chapter 153 Zoning Code, Article 1, General Provisions, and Article 6, Development and Area District Requirements regarding the East Market Street Urban Overlay Area and declaring an emergency.
For an advertised for public hearing?
Item number 14 is an ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into a lease agreement with Stowe BMX Association to extend the term of their bicycle motocross facility lease at the Akron Fulton Airport and declaring an emergency.
Yes, sir, Mr. Vollen?
Yes, we currently lease the property that has the BMX track to the BMX organization. It's at a nominal amount, I believe it's $50 a year. This will continue that lease through next year.
Is there a reason for the short term?
Well, first, it went, after COVID, the lease took a long time to get renewed, but also LTA has an option to purchase the property. And they have decided, that the track can stay through 2024. So it's giving the flexibility, but also giving the BMX track the comfort that they're there through the end of next year.
And there's no increase in the rent?
Yeah, it's $50.
That's okay. Any questions or comments from any committee members? Council members? Is consent agenda okay?
Absolutely.
Okay, right on. All those in favor of consent agenda signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Against? That was a bad joke, I guess. No one even smiled, except for Gert. Number 15, please.
15 is an ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to apply for and accept grant funding from the Ohio Department of Development to help the city in the demolition of various structures and declaring an emergency.
Yep.
Mr. Volleman.
Love to. The State Department of Development has put out $500 million to assist with demolition projects throughout the state. They did a similar thing last year. We are applying to get a share of $12 million that can help us with demolitions of either nuisance structures or things that might go along with the development project. Just have the budget in order to do it.
Very good. I don't think we could pass this quick enough, to be honest with you. But any questions or comments from any committee members, council members? Oh, Linda Mobian. I see your hand up. Comment?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Volman, just curious, I noticed that Rankin is on the list. I know we have a number of abandoned schools or schools that are not used anymore, but some of them have been, I don't know if you call it purchased by people or what, but they are running into all kinds of problems in terms of keeping them safe and in good working order. How do they get on the list to be considered demolition?
We need to be on the list. It either has to be something that we own or that we currently have the right to demolish. So if there was a house out there or a building out there that we didn't own or hadn't gone through our procedures yet, we wouldn't be able to get them on the list. We were going for as broad an application as we could. Rankin's actually, and in my opinion, one of the better examples of why this is needed, because the gentleman that owns Rankin also owned, what is it, Lonsdale? Lonsdale, and then also Smith School, both of which we end up having to go and do emergency demolitions, which costs us about twice as much as it would if we were to schedule a demolition. So, Rankin, if we can do it this way, because those Rankin and those two other schools have been all the way through the vacant building registration or registry and have been ordered demolished. But, ordering something demolished and having the funds to do it are two different things. So this would really help in that regard.
Okay, thank you.
Further questions or comments? Mosley?
Thank you. I can't seem to open up the document. How much are you applying for the funding?
We're looking for about $12 million.
And this is for how many on the list?
Well, we had, I think, we were looking at about 5 or 6 commercial structures and potentially over 100 residential structures. Each one would have a 25% match of the city. And, you know, if we were to come to enter into a contract for demolition, we would have to come back to council to do that.
Can you send me a list of the buildings that are on the list?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Further questions or comments? I'd like to.
Mr. Chair, Councilwoman
Oh.
Mobian has her hand raised.
I apologize. Linda Mobian? You're muted, I believe.
Trying to unmute myself. I'm sorry. Thank you. Mr. Volman, another question. I would like to have that list as well. With regard to some of these structures, and I'm not sure how many, you have to separate the asbestos removal from demolishing the building. Do you have that fee broken down as well?
I am going to defer to my expert on such things, who's to my left right now, in Brad Beckert.
Brad?
We do in some of the buildings, some of the ones we do not have it separated. I've added additional money for that into the demo application so we can get the asbestos removed if we don't have a report. On the big commercial structures, I believe we have 4 out of the 5, we have the numbers for the asbestos.
Could you include that in the information you send out, please?
Yes, in the
Thank you.
applications, yep.
Further questions? Ms. Mosley?
To that regard, so when you put the application in, do you have to list the buildings in the application?
Oh, yes,
Well, for the commercial, yes.
yes.
Is Goodrich on that list?
What's that?
Goodrich Junior High, are they on that list for the application?
Goodrich, no.
I don't believe we own that building.
Yeah. The schools can submit themselves.
Yeah.
For these.
Even the private owner can submit it?
Yes. They have to go through the land bank, but it is available.
I will shoot that link to you. They put out a recent press release, and I'm looking at the website now, so I'll shoot that link to you.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Please provide that for the committee and council. Thank you. Further questions or comments? Ms. Linda Mobian?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, but thank you again. With regard to the ownership, the owners have to initiate this, or someone has to file a complaint through our appeals board or whatever it is?
Our understanding is that it has to be, you either have to own it or have a legal right to demolish the property. So property, for us, it would be properties the city owns or properties that have been through the demolition procedure and have been ordered to be demolished. So those would be ones we could apply for.
So once the building,
I'm sorry, an owner could give us the right, could give us the right to apply on their behalf, but.
yeah, just curious, one more question. After the building is demolished, who owns the property, the land?
Well, on buildings that we own, it would be us. If it was buildings that is privately owned, the private owner it does not change the ownership of the property.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mr. Chair.
Sharon Connor?
Would this include Carter Machine? The Carter building was torn down probably 1.5 years ago, and all of that rubble has been there. When I spoke with the land bank, they said they don't have the money to clean it up. But in the meantime, it is a hot mess.
And it is owned by the land bank currently?
I believe so.
Okay.
I'm not 100% sure. There was a private owner, but then he allowed the land bank to demo it.
Right.
Our applications would not include that.
Okay.
Further questions or comments? Is there a recommendation for suspension of the rules with a favorable report?
Motion for suspension of the rules with a favorable report.
Is there a second? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Item 15A, Ms. Viviano.
15A is a resolution urging the modification of Akron City Council Resolution Number 159, 2010, and vacation of the current honorary designation of a portion of Olive Street near St. Thomas Hospital as Dr. Bob's Way, urging acceptance of a new honorary designation of a section of Ardmore Avenue between West Exchange Street and North Portage Path as Dr. Bob's Way, urging the administration to take actions consistent with this vacation and new designation, including the removal of existing signage and the creation and placement of new signage on or near Ardmore Avenue and declaring an emergency.
Okay, is there anyone here wishing to speak on this item? I assume that's you, Mr. Neal, as sponsor?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I put in this resolution at the request of those who are oversee or the caretakers of Dr. Bob's house. I believe the administration has already taken down the signs that were over at on Olive Street and given them to so that they're in the possession, or they shortly will be in the possession of those who are the caretakers of Dr. Bob's house. And since you know, St. Thomas Hospital, which played a significant role, no longer exists, they requested that the section of Ardmore be rededicated with Dr. Bob's Way, since again, Olive Street has lost its significance since St. Thomas Hospital is no longer there.
Okay. Any comments from the administration? Gert Wilms?
Yeah, this has come too late. There may be some historical issues there that we definitely want to take a look at, why it originally was done, why that sign was taken down, because I'm learning of this today. So we definitely want to take a look, talk to the individuals that were originally involved in that naming, and kind of move forward from there.
Thank you very much. Do you have anything in writing, Mr. Neal, referencing you'd spoke to some folks who requested this?
Sure do. I have the email, and if it would please the committee, I can have the folks who made the request, who were part of the original designation request, I can have them speak this evening. Again, they've been in communication with, I'm assuming, our service director, because the signage has been taken down and was supposed to have been delivered to them, I believe, last week or the week before. Maybe off because it's been a while. It's been in the past week or two that we've spoken. So the folks who made this request are the folks who are connected with Dr. Bob's house, and are those who are part of that great heritage that's now a part of Akron's history. These are the folks that made that request.
Very good. I would submit that we should probably take time on this particular item, make sure we get all the information that we can so we can make an educated decision on this. It sounds on the surface like there's been some homework done on this, but I'd like to touch base with some other folks as well to ensure that we're informed on making a decision.
I'll make motion for time.
No problem. Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir, Mr.
So
Neal.
we can be exact. If it pleases the committee, I can request that they come to speak at next week's committee meeting.
Mm-hmm. You can request that. Thank you. There's a motion and a second. All those in favor of time signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Very good. The ayes have it. Thank you. I believe that's the last item that's on our agenda. So with that, we'll adjourn. Thank you.
Our next committee today will be the Rules Committee, and it will begin at 2 o'clock. Those committee members are Freeman, Fusco, Amobian, Connor, and Malik. Again, that's the Rules Committee, and it will begin at 2 o'clock. Thank you.